All right, everybody, thank you for your patience. We're at 11:03 a.m. here in Victoria, BC, so we're going to get started with our webinar. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Tammara Kennelly, and I'm the president here of FriesenPress, and I'm joined by my guest, Charlie Barrett, founder of the Barrett Company. We're going to take the next 30 minutes to walk you through some of the tips and tricks that we've learned about marketing your self-published book. We're going to talk a little bit about the services and products that FriesenPress offers their authors, and then Charlie's going to jump in and talk about the role of a publicist and some of the services that he can offer you to help support marketing your self-published book. So let's jump in and get started. So I always say to authors who are looking to self-publish, keep in mind that this journey is really a triathlon. It's got three unique legs, so much like a triathlon where you have your swim and your bike and your run, and you need to conserve your energy to be effective in all three legs of the race. Self-publishing is very similar to this. You know, that first leg of the race, for many of you, you're still in the writing process, is about writing your book. It's a process that can be emotionally and take a lot of brain power. It can be very draining. And as you put that book together, you feel you feel exposed. You feel like you're putting your work out there for the world to read and to judge, and it can leave you feeling very vulnerable. It's a long process. It's one, though, that artists often relish. It's their favorite part of the journey because they're introverted artists and they love burying themselves in their office and typing away at the keyboard. What we find here at FriesenPress is that most authors finish this piece of the journey and they are exhausted. They may have been working on the book for as little as a few months, but for the most part, authors have been working on this book for years and it's drained them. And they deliver the manuscript to us here at FriesenPress and they say, "Oh, here you go. Here's my manuscript. Call me when my book is ready." And we remind them that one of the beautiful things about self-publishing is that it's a process that's meant to empower the author. We want to involve you in that process. We want you to be making the decisions as we equip you with the knowledge to make those decisions. We want you to maintain that creative control according to your vision. And then at the end of it, you're allowed to keep your rights to your book. It's your product. So I always say make sure that you're managing your energy accordingly so that you get through that first leg of writing, that second leg then of producing your book. And for those of you on the line who are at that point where you're trying to figure out how you're going to produce your book, whether you're going to work with a self-publisher like FriesenPress that supports you through the process, or whether you're going to do it yourself and navigate that process on your own, it's a big decision. If you're at that point where you're trying to make that decision, I would encourage you to log on to our YouTube channel, go to the FriesenPress channel, and there's a webinar there called Demystifying Self-Publishing, and it's a great webinar for helping you navigate that choice, talking about the pros and the cons and how you would accomplish either route. So it's a great decision-making tool if that's where you're at. Some of you on the phone may be at the point where you've produced your book and you're looking at the task of selling and marketing your book. And what does that look like? And that's what me and Charlie are here to talk to you about today. I will say this, folks, if you have questions as we move through the webinar, please feel free to use the chat module in the webinar to send me your questions. I will be addressing them at the end of the webinar with Charlie's support. We'll leave a good 10 to 15 minutes for those questions. So please feel free to send them as you think of them, and I will save them up and we'll address them at the end. So when you purchase a publishing package with FriesenPress, there are a few things that are included in every package. And one of those items that's included in every package is a number of hours of coaching, one-on-one with a book promotion support individual. You work with the same person throughout the process. It's generally over a 2-month period, and that person supports you in developing your marketing plan. And so as I go back to the last slide and you see the visual that I've put there, we really believe in empowering the author on this journey to learn how to market and sell their book on their own. So we'll give you the tools to be able to do that effectively. We'll help outline a plan for you to keep you on track. But at the end of the day, it's the author that's going out and selling and marketing their book. And I think this is an important distinction with self-publishing. Authors need to be aware of this. As I said, I find that authors are natural introverts. They love to be buried in their office writing. And so it takes even more energy for them to don that persona of the extrovert that's going out and talking about their book and asking people to buy it and selling and marketing themselves. It's not an impossible task, but it's definitely not where authors get their energy from. It's not something that sets them on fire like the writing process does. So you need to make sure you leave some gas in the tank to be prepared to embark on that sales and marketing journey. So, with every package, as I said, there are a number of hours of coaching time one on one with your book promotion specialist. There's a differentiation here, and as you look to purchase your package with FriesenPress, you'll need to decide which path you want to go down. Path number one is for those that buy our entry level bestseller package and our all inclusive package, which is the next level up. That path has you paired off with a book promotion specialist at the end of your production process when your book is ready and in hand, and they start to work with you on a sales and marketing plan. Path number two is more suited to the author that really was enamored by the traditional publishing process, but perhaps wasn't able to be acquired traditionally and is looking to go down the self-publishing route. That presidential package will give you that traditional publishing experience. And what I mean by that is you are paired up with a team of individuals before your book even enters production. They're working with you. For the book promotion specialist, this is a beautiful thing because they're working with you to shape and build your product to be as marketable as it can be before you get to the marketing stage. So they have input into how the product is shaped, and they love that. It makes it a much more effective process. And so with the presidential package, that team, you're working with your book promotion specialist from the beginning. You've got your account manager who's doing all the project management. And then you also get that direct content with your contact with your editor and your designer. So a very different experience, very similar to that traditional publishing experience. However, if you're like many of our authors and you choose to go down with the route of the bestseller or the all-inclusive, you get those coaching hours, you meet your book promotion specialist, and over a 2-month period, generally in about a 2-hour block of time that's broken up over a number of meetings, you will start by doing a vision interview with that book promotion specialist. They want to get to know you. They have some questions that they want to ask about who you are as an individual. What are your strengths and interests? They want to know more about your book, and they want to know more about the goals that you have for your book. So for some authors, they come to us, and when the book is produced and done, that's the end of their journey. They're happy to share that book with a few friends and family members. Perhaps it's a memoir. It wasn't meant for mass distribution, and that's it. They're done. Most authors, however, this is a business for them. This is something that they want to do professionally. They want to generate a significant income off of their writing to be able to do that on a full-time basis. So that vision interview, helps us get to know you a little bit more, to understand your goals, and to really help create a customized marketing plan for you. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever taken an introduction to marketing course at some point through high school or university. If you have, you know that marketing, there's like a smorgasbord of activities that you can select from in building an effective marketing plan. And as you can imagine, over a 2-month period with a couple hours of coaching, you can't build a comprehensive marketing plan. And quite frankly, for most authors, it would be overwhelming to try and execute on a comprehensive marketing plan. And so as you spend time with your book promotion specialist and they get to know you a bit more and you get to understand more about the different facets of a marketing plan, you're going to narrow down where you want to focus your coaching hours, specifically based on your goals and on your abilities, and really on the activities that make you feel confident and comfortable. So when I talk about a marketing plan being a bit of a smorgasbord, you can see on this slide, we've thrown out 9 options that you can select from in building out your marketing plan. This isn't a comprehensive list, but it's a great place to start for you to get an idea of how many things you can choose from in building a marketing plan. So we always say choose 1 or 2, work with your book promotion specialist on those areas, execute on the plan, feel some success, generate some of your royalties, some revenue, and reinvest it back into building out an even more comprehensive marketing plan. So some of the options that you might want to focus on, lots of our authors definitely want to be in a bookstore. Physical shelf space in a bookstore is very, very precious to bookstore owners. And so you need to walk in with a great pitch on why your book belongs on their shelves. You might want some help planning your book launch. Number three, planning your social media platforms. That's a great place to be. It's free. It's reaching a widespread audience. And so that may be something you want to focus on. Maybe you want help sending queries to the media and book reviewers to get some exposure for your book. Perhaps you're struggling with writing your press release. Time management. Some of our authors come to us and they know sales and marketing well, but they're pitiful at managing their time, and they're looking for some support around building that project plan, setting milestones, putting dates, having goals associated with that. And so we help build out that plan. Maybe you need help developing your pitch. Have you thought about what that elevator speech sounds like around your book as you're approaching people? And if they're interested in your elevator pitch and it's effective and they want to know more, what are you sharing with them? Number eight, blogging is a great way to position yourself as a subject matter expert. Do you need help getting your blog up and running? Or branding. Some of our authors come to us and they want to build out a brand associated with their book. Maybe it's not just a book. Maybe they're going to be doing some merchandising, etc. Or perhaps it's a book series and this is book one of that series and they want to build out that brand. And what does that plan look like? So as you can see, this is only a sample of some of the things you can do with your marketing plan. There are a lot of items that you need to choose from, and it's great to work with your book promotion marketing specialist to narrow that plan down to one or two things that really speak to you that you're comfortable executing on. Now, you're going to go through this 2 months of coaching over a 2-hour period with your book promotion specialist. You're going to walk away with a great comprehensive personalized plan just for you. But, like many of us, it can feel overwhelming, the amount of information that comes at you. And you walk away and you start executing on your plan and you forget some of the things that you've learned. We make sure that as you finish the promotional process, we send you away with some materials that really reinforce and support your learning. Conversely, if these are areas that you haven't covered off with your book promotion specialist, they are great materials to get you started in this direction to fill out your marketing plan as you need more to focus on. So the two handbooks that we send off with you are our print media promotion handbook, a great resource for learning how to draft a press release, how to create a press kit, and how to do a media interview. And we also send you off with our radio and television promotion handbook. And again, this is a great guide to help develop and deliver your pitch, how to follow up with producers when you're seeking media interviews, some sample interview questions to start you thinking about your responses, some of the most commonly asked questions in these types of interviews, and some basic broadcast media tips. So great materials for either supporting your learning or filling out your marketing plan as you gain some momentum. So we've talked a little bit about the coaching support, the hours that are included in your production package with FriesenPress as you publish your book. Let's talk about some of the additional products that you can purchase in addition to your publishing package that will help support your sales and marketing plan. And we're going to start with the press release, really important part of your media promotion plan. So I always say to authors, you might be a fantastic writer for writing a story, but not everybody is equipped to write great marketing copy. It's a very different skill set. You need to be able to say things in short sound bites. You need to be succinct. You need to be compelling with your writing. You really only get one chance to make a good impression as you start to send that press release out and look to secure media interviews with radio and television, or perhaps you're looking for coverage in magazines and newspapers. We'll help you write that press release and we'll give you some direction on where you can circulate that press release. Another great product, and this has got to be a core as a part of your sales and marketing toolkit, you need to have a website. And we have a great product that will help you create that structure of a website. We'll populate it with some initial content. We'll hand over the credentials for you to be able to act as the administrator of your website. And then it's up to you to continue making your content relevant, updating when you're going to an event, when you're doing a book signing, when you're doing a book reading, etc. So we'll get you started with the website. We'll teach you how to administrate it and update the content, and then we send you off to manage that website. I always say to authors, imagine that person sitting in front of their laptop and either they're Googling your name or your title or your subject matter. So, for example, a potential reader that hears about your book from a friend and they Google it, where do they go when they Google that? A reader that finishes your book and they've loved the content and they're wondering if you have some book club materials, where do they go when they Google that? So, you can go through that list and see that there are going to be a number of people looking for you as your book starts to create some buzz. You want to make sure they can find you on your website. Take them home to your website and start to engage with them. So a website is a great starting point for any author, and it's never too early to get that website up and going. Social media is such an important part of your sales and marketing strategy. As I said earlier, it's free. There's no cost other than your time investment. I always say it's important for an author to remember that there's 4 C's associated with social media, which is you need to consistently create compelling content. Now, when you consider those 4 C's, the first thing you should think about is A, am I going to genuinely enjoy being on social media and regularly updating the content? If the answer is no, don't do it. If the answer is yes, great, move forward. The other thing I would say is it's overwhelming how many social media platforms are out there. And as quickly as the Facebook, which was what it was initially called when it was up and running, and it's caught fire and Facebook is where people live nowadays, there are so many platforms to choose from. Choose 1 or 2 and do them well, as opposed to stretching yourself across 4 or 5 platforms and investing less than what is required to create relevant, interesting content for your readers. I would say to you, this, if you are currently at the writing stage, if you have not started writing yet, that is the perfect time for you to start your social media plan. You really should be on social media long before you're releasing your book, ideally. Having said that, it's never too late to start, but I always say you want to be seen as a thought leader. Before you start to develop your book. So you need to start post. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Let's say you're an author that's writing a book on dog training. You should be on social media now, posting articles about dog training, potentially posting videos about dog rescue, any type of content that would appeal to people that might have a dog that they might want to train. You should start posting content. People will read it and go, wow, that person's really interesting. They really know a lot about dogs. Everything that they post is relevant and good quality, and they're a real thought leader around this. Now, you develop that following early before you start writing your book, so that as you write your book, you can crowdsource from that audience all sorts of feedback from, what do you think of these 3 titles? What's the best one? What do you think about these 3 covers? Share your first chapter. Get some feedback on the writing. Crowdsource some editing. And by the time your book is ready to be released, you've created great momentum, you're a thought leader, and now it's time for you to say, I've given to you all of this relevant content. Now I'm asking for something back, which is, will you buy my book? Will you talk about my book? Will you log on to Amazon or Goodreads and leave me a review? So social media is a very important part of your plan. We will help you choose the platforms that are most relevant for your book, and we will help you set up the platforms. And then we turn those credentials over to you to support you with creating that content on a regular basis. Book reviews are a fantastic way to create some visibility for your book, create some buzz, some talk about your book. At FriesenPress, we offer 2 paid book review services, probably the 2 most well-recognized book review services, that being Kirkus and Forward Reviews. As I said, they are a paid service. There are a number of free review services out there as well. And, you'll probably have to make that a part of your strategy if that's important to you, to send many, many copies of your book out with letters asking book reviewers to review them. However, it's nice to have 1 paid review under your belt early so that you can leverage that review for your press kit, for a quote on the back of your book. That's really important because you're getting it from a very reputable company. So a quote from a reputable, well-recognized company goes a long way. What I always say to authors, though, is keep in mind that these book reviewers, just because you're paying for a book review, doesn't mean they're going to say wonderful things about your book. They need to maintain their reputation as a company that gives good, objective book reviews. So while it's wonderful to get a positive review and it feels good and you can leverage it like crazy in your sales and marketing toolkit, it's not such a bad thing if you get a bad review. Don't panic, because within a bad review is always a jewel, some bit of positivity that you can still pull out and repurpose for your website and your press kit and the back of your book cover. It's also a learning opportunity. Why? Why didn't they like it? And remember, this is one person's opinion. It doesn't mean they're right. There have been lots of New York Times #1 bestsellers that have gone bad reviews. Just because they say it's not good doesn't mean it isn't. However, it's great feedback from a reader to incorporate into your next book. And finally, I'll say this. Let's go back to that reader sitting in front of the computer looking for you or your book title, and that list of results comes up when you put in your Google search. Remember, it's important that you rank high up in that list. You don't want to be on page 2 or 3 or 4. Nobody goes to page 2 or 3 or 4. You want to be at the top of page 1. So even with a bad book review, there's value because that review service will link back to your website, and that's how you climb up that list in rankings. So really important. So book review is a great service. Have it done early so that you can incorporate it onto the back of your book. And finally, our newest book promotion service that FriesenPress just rolled out. Our first issue was just released a few weeks ago. We're really excited about our brand new catalog. So our authors have the opportunity to purchase space in our catalog, whether that be half a page, a full page, a front cover, or a back cover. They have the ability to buy space in that catalog to really share their book with Ingram's top 200 book buyers. So you'll have 200 sets of eyes on your book in that catalog for bookstores and libraries that buy significant volumes of book from Ingram's. So it's a great way not only to get some visibility on your book, but also to have as collateral, as a leave behind for when you're at book expos, book signings, whether you're going to a bookstore or a library asking them to buy your book. It's a great leave behind. So a couple of quick start tips. If you're looking for, just Tammara, give me a few things that I can start on right away. What would I do to start my sales and marketing efforts? Nail down your target market, know your competition, go to the bookstore, understand the books that are in your genre. Why are they selling well? What aspects of the book make it a standout? What price should you be charging to be competitive? Number 2, get your website up and going. Number 3, social media. It's never too early to get started on that. Number 4, make a list of everyone in your network. Now's the time to say to your friends and families and coworkers, please support me. And number 5, start sending queries out to reviewers. With that, I'd like to introduce Charlie Barrett. I feel very fortunate to have him joining us today. Charlie is a very high-profile publicist in the book world. Charlie is an award-winning publicist. He is the founder of the Barrett Company. He's helped hundreds of independent authors get known by the world's literary media since his firm opened in 1992. One of his first clients was a self-published author, actually, John Locke, who was the first writer to sell 1 million copies of his book, Lethal People, on Kindle. The Barrett Company serves writers in both the fiction and nonfiction genres and offers a full range of publicity services and author PR programs. In addition, the Barrett Company, based in Los Angeles, serves clients in the motion picture and television industries as well. Earlier, Charlie got to work for both NBC Television and 20th Century Fox Films as a publicity manager for several movie and TV productions, including The Tonight Show. So again, really thrilled to have you joining us, Charlie. Thank you so much. And so, Charlie, we've talked a little bit about some of the products that FriesenPress offers, and one of them was the press release. And so, we offer a very basic press release process, but I understand it's very different when you're working with a publicist. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you employ with your clients?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for inviting me this morning. I'm really thrilled to be here. Tammara, that was a great presentation, by the way. I learned a lot of things myself just listening to your presentation here.
Thanks.
Our press releases, we start, of course, with our new clients when they sign on with us. We, of course, read their book first, and we find angles that we try and use to develop a press release, make it very appealing to the media, because they get a lot of press releases every day, and they also get a lot of books to review, and they have to go through a great amount of material, and you have to kind of think the way they think. I kind of feel they don't really need us, we need them, and we kind of approach it that way, and we look for angles in books that are very topical, maybe in the current news landscape, or things like that, or it's really also placing certain press releases with certain kinds of media outlets. So it can vary. It's a very big picture, but we always try and keep the author in mind and what they're saying. It's a 2-page press release that we do. And when someone reads it across the table at, say, Forward or the New York Times or whoever, they're going to know a lot about the book, the author, and all of the details, including price, website. It's a very inclusive 2-page press release and very much in depth that gives an author bio sketch as well as quotes from the author, and a very attractive package. Like you were saying earlier, a press release, it's one of the first things that someone's going to see, and you have to make it as really impressive as you can. You want no typos in it, that's for sure, like your book. And it's really an important tool, probably the foremost important tool, along with some others, but it's really a powerful one to help you get your book over.
Good. Great. So, Charlie, I know people are going to be listening to you as you talk about the different products and services that you offer. How does an author come to work with you? What does that look like if they decide that they want to work with you?
Well, of course, we give them a complete agreement with spelling out exactly what we expect from them, like showing up on time to do interviews, and of course, paying us. And also, we cover all of the areas that we're going to do for them, and what they're going to do for us. But we want to make sure that they totally understand, what they're buying, and we don't want any situation with anyone. We totally avoid anything where they would say, "Well, you didn't tell me that," or "I didn't know that." So we make it really clear, and a really clear, concise 2-page contract that's very flexible. We have some authors that want to just join us for 30 days. We have others that want to be on for 3 months, some are 6 months. It kind of varies, and we have various programs of all kinds to work with all kinds of budgets and all kinds of books. So
good.
It's we get most of our clients come through the internet. We have very, very good high rankings in Google. And we get a lot of referrals from various companies and other authors who will send their friends to us. So it's a very pathway, but we just want to make sure they're happy and they're pleased, and we work very hard with them and our team here to make that happen.
Good. Well, I will say, Charlie, I know we've sent a few authors your way, and they've had nothing but positive things to say about the experience. So really, really impressed.
Yes, thank you.
So, Charlie, I talked about social media and the importance of getting started early. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on social media and how you incorporate that into your sales and marketing plans for your authors.
Yes. Well, there's a few areas that are really crucial, Tammara. One is if you're doing social media, always try and attach images, your book cover, any photographs inside the book, particularly if it's a nonfiction biography or a memoir of some kind. Photos and images really put over any social media placements, anything on Twitter or Facebook. We are big believers in Instagram and Pinterest for certain books, but other books it doesn't work so much. But images are really important to enhance the content of these social media pieces. And also we do virtual book tours, and someone will say, well, what is that? It sounds like a very intriguing kind of phrase, but essentially an author will sign up for that with us, and we will give them perhaps 10 to 12 pieces, sometimes 15 pieces of essays and Q&A sheets on how they became an author, or how they want their readers to come away from after reading their book, and what they want to walk away from and understand what the message is. Various pieces of essays they will write, maybe 250, 300-word pieces with the Q&A sheets. And what we do, we place them over perhaps a month period with select literary bloggers, like there's one on Shellfish, theexaminer.com, Laura's Reading Room. We have a whole vast empire of them that we customize each book to. So it's really like a very, you can sit at your computer in your pajamas and you can write these pieces and give them to us, and we place them over a 30-day period on these various blogs. And each day the book is featured on these blogs that it encompasses as many as perhaps 30 to 35 altogether. So it's really a good way and a very cost-effective way to get your message out and to tie in your media plan.
Great. I agree, definitely. So Charlie, there are some other services that you offer, again, that are somewhat similar to what we offer, but probably more comprehensive, media interview training, book reviews, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about some of those services?
Yes. What I do with a new author, Tammara, is that we'll give them the 25 most likely questions they're going to be asked. Now, my background, before I was a publicist, I came out of the media. I wrote for the Associated Press, and I was a writer for Billboard magazine, which is a very famous music magazine. I did some book reviews. I know a lot about how they think on that side of the world because I came from it essentially when I started. So I'm always trying to keep that in mind when I'm doing this. And I think that book signings are very, very important. If you can get some book signings in a local bookstore, it's certainly very, very, very important. Any way that you can get out there to promote, your book, whether it be through a bookstore or book signing, any of these things really, really help. But there's just certain areas that you really have to pay a lot of attention to, some very basics. And in our media training, I will give perhaps 25 questions that an author will fill out and return to us, and then I walk them through some mock interviews. Some people are terrified of going on the radio. So we kind of walk them through, and I can play a radio host. I did a radio show in Los Angeles many years ago. And I can kind of get them, used to what it's like and the cadence and beat of doing an interview and how you want to mention your website and your book title as often as you can, because often the host does not do that. So you have to keep that in mind all the time and keep the conversation going and make it interesting. Sometimes some interviewers aren't that interesting, and the author has to perform. So I kind of walk them through a lot of these kind of questions and coach them, and it really makes a big difference than putting someone out there on a radio show who's not really trained and has never done one before, and it's going to be a disaster often. So that's a really crucial part of what we do here. And we spend time, with our authors and want to make sure they're really confident before they go out and do a first radio interview. And there are some very, very good book-centric radio shows in the USA. One is on NPR, Fresh Air with Terry Gross. There's several others. There's also some very, very good internet book shows. One's called A Book and a Chat, which is hosted by Barry Eva out of New York. He has a lot of top authors on his show. So those things are important, just, preparing and getting someone comfortable and getting the feel of who they are and what their message is.
That's great. Yeah, you definitely want to be memorable for the right reasons because you were prepared, right?
Yes, it's so important, really important. And it takes, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes, a few weeks before they get into the beat of it. And we've had clients that have done as many as 15, 20, 25, 30 radio shows. And they really love them after doing that many, and they want more.
That's great.
Television is another animal. Of course, I urge people, if they're in a town like, we have a client in Erie, Pennsylvania, who's a professor. I urged him to, get to know the local television station reporters and do a bookstore signing there, and start at the local level. One of the first questions we'll get sometimes for television, Tammara, is, can you get me on Oprah? Well, that's not an easy task by any means, and I certainly can't pick up the telephone and book someone on Oprah. I mean, it isn't done like that. It's a process, and we get all the materials over to our contacts there. They're the ones, of course, ultimately that decide, and we pitch them, and we find angles to interest them, but they ultimately decide whether they're going to have a guest book on Oprah's own network now. Of course, her show has been going for a while. But many of the top-tier shows, like the Today Show, Good Morning America, those shows really are very selective in their guests. A lot of them go for celebrities, of course, but yet we've had authors who will, perhaps they've written something about airlines, and there's an airline disaster, and we can plug in a client who can maybe talk about, piloting an aircraft. We had a client that was a very famous pilot, and he talked on CNN regarding an air crash and what might have happened. So you always have to be watching the news here and being very alert as to what's going around each day in the TV landscape. There's a lot of material, and of course the internet has become another, as you know, great news source.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much information that we have at our fingertips in the tech age we live in. So.
Definitely. So, Charlie, we talked about the fact that you're out in Los Angeles, so you're close to the Hollywood scene, and you've definitely been a part of it. Can you talk about how you tie in that experience with Hollywood to the publicity services that you offer your authors?
Sure. We've had a number of clients that will come to us and say, well, gee, my book, I think my book would make a great movie. And sometimes they do. I mean, there are some books that really, really do cry to be made into a film. A good example right now, there's a writer, a very unknown writer named Andrew Weir, W-E-I-R. Andrew Weir was a guy who started, he had a website. He wrote a book called The Martian, which, as you may know, is coming out with Matt Damon in a few weeks as a major motion picture. He started serializing that book on his website, and it just caught the eye of a literary agent here in Los Angeles. And one thing has led to another. He had a huge following, and they sold the book to the studio, and now it's going to be released very, very shortly. That's a good example and point. But we do treatments. The treatment, in case anyone doesn't know what a treatment is a kind of precursor to a script. Most studios and television executives and cable television programmers, they want to see ideas. They want to see a treatment, and a treatment is basically a boiled-down adaptation of showing how a book will work for a film or a television series or show or film. And we have Hollywood writers who work with us who will do these, take a book, and where they will create a treatment. We help the writer register with the Writers Guild of America here in Los Angeles, which is quite reasonable for, I think it's $25 protection of theft of idea for, I think it's a 5-year period. We walk them through that process, and we write the treatment, we work with the writer, author, and we get all the information in there. We spiral bind it. We work up maybe 100 copies, and we mail it out very selectively around to a number of different producers. We always try and find producers that would be interested based on their body of work of other films they've done, or maybe a TV programmer at NBC who loves comedy, and he's looking for a certain other kind of a comedic book, and maybe this book would work as a series. So it's really a selective process, and we do offer that service to our clients. And we had an eye doctor here in Los Angeles who wrote a great thriller called White Sleeper, and It's now, before development at Paramount Studios. And we had a lady who had a manuscript, a very interesting book, but unpublished. She's a vintage lady auto racer, and she's races vintage cars. She goes to all the world meets around the world. She came to me with this manuscript. She said, I thought this would make a great TV or film. I said, well, I think so too. And before we knew it, we did a retreatment, and we placed that with and I'm sure this is a very popular TV show in Canada. It's called The Amazing Race. And the producers of The Amazing Race just love the idea, and they are in talks with her now to develop it into a series. So yeah, there's being so close here in Los Angeles, and having also worked as a film and television publicity firm, we know a lot of producers and a lot of filmmakers and actors that are interested always in reading books, and there's a hunger for new stories all the time. So there's just a lot of opportunities today, and not just beyond the silver screen or the small screen, but Amazon now is developing a whole online studio, as many of you know, and it's opened up a whole other world. Netflix is now creating their own series. They have Game of Thrones, which is extremely popular, House of Cards, and so forth and so on. So there's a whole other area that's opened up for books, and we're very plugged into those companies. I attend a lot of those conventions, so it's just a lot of opportunities in those areas for authors today that weren't around just even a couple of years ago.
That's great, Charlie. That's fantastic information for our authors. I noticed that we are at 11:45 right now, so we've got about 15 minutes before we start to wrap up, and we're getting lots of great questions pouring in. So maybe we can jump into our Q&A session and share a bit more of your knowledge through the answers to the questions. All right, so let's have a look at this list of questions. Folks, don't hesitate to send your questions in through chat. I'm going to start with a question from Wynn, who asks, the ebook of my book may not look like the print copy and even may not look correctly formatted. How can I ensure that FriesenPress can test the various channels for me to ensure that my ebook looks right? So I'll say this, Wynn, normally we do all of the production of the book. And so in producing the print book and the ebook, we would ensure that everything is formatted correctly. It's really tricky to make sure that you have the right formatting for each file style and each channel, whether that be Kindle or Kobo. So it's important to have somebody that knows what they're doing formatting those ebooks for you. So when you begin the production process with us, we'll make sure that that's taken care of for you. So Helen has a question, Charlie, that I think we can both tackle. She asks, what if an author can't invest time in marketing their book? Is their only option to go to a regular publisher and hope it will get picked up? I'm not on any social media, and because of my job, I can't invest time in marketing my book. Do you have a service that can do that marketing? So, Charlie, I'm just going to start off really quickly with saying to Helen, I always find it interesting that authors are enamored with the romance of the traditional publisher. I've met a lot of authors who have been traditionally published, and while the romantic vision that you have is true for about 1% of all the New York Times #1 best-selling authors, where, your book is published, you get a huge advance check, you get a schedule, and a plane is waiting, and it jets you off to your book signings, and everything is done for you. The reality is that for most traditionally published authors, they're going through the same process as a self-published author. They are out there asking for book signings in bookstores. They're out there trying to get their book into the bookstore and trying to secure interviews. They're going through the same process as you, but they're getting a smaller royalty as a traditionally published author. So I will say this, it doesn't matter who you are and where you go, you have to have the time to invest into marketing your book, because otherwise it's going to get lost in the millions and millions of books available for sale on Amazon. Nobody's going to magically find it and buy it, and it's going to catch on fire. So it's so important that you have that time set aside. Having said that, Charlie, do you have any thoughts on some
Yeah,
alternatives?
I totally agree. You put it very, very well. Um, yeah, it's the publishing world is changing. It's going through a revolution. Don't you agree,
I
Tamara?
do, yes.
It's become a very, very different than the traditional New York style publisher. We had a client call us about 2 weeks ago who's got a book coming out, a major book with a major publisher, and they were just doing a few things, and he needs help from us. It's a very big book with a Hollywood personality, um, and so you have to spend the time to market your book. It's very crucial because no one else is going to do it for you. It's a process, and the New York publishers really, I find in the last, particularly last 7 or 8 years, they're doing a lot less, and they're really cutting back a lot on their publicity staffs um, tremendously. And they're doing mostly just book reviews, services for their client authors. So self-publishing is I believe is just really the way to go. If you were Jackie Collins, and I worked with her with her very, very early books when she had a publisher, and then of course she was so famous she didn't need a publisher anymore, and she published her own books. So yeah, what you're saying is very true, Tamara. It's you have to invest time to market your book, and however you can find a way to do that, it's very, very important if you want to be successful.
Definitely. And I would say, Helen, start small. Don't let it overwhelm you. Get your book done, put it out there and start small. A few activities at night and have it build momentum. Don't make it seem bigger than it needs to be. You have to start somewhere. If you have a passion and you have a story inside of you, let it come out and start somewhere. It's really important to feed that passion.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Good. So let's see. Sean here asks regarding social media involvement, isn't there a fear of talking about your book and someone stealing your ideas? What are your thoughts on that, Charlie?
Well, I suppose someone could steal your ideas, but are they going to do it as well as you're going to do it? Um, I there's a lot of people who believe they can become authors and write, and many can, and many are very, very good, and others cannot. Um, and I don't know. I've never seen too much of that ever happening. I think it seems to me any author who really wants to write a book, they should just go out and write it, not worry about such things.
Hmm. I think, Charlie, I don't know if you agree with this, but I would say I'd be more scared that people wouldn't know anything about my book and there would be no momentum going before it came out. So
Well, that too, yes,
yeah,
right.
yeah. And a book is more than just an idea. I mean, you can have a great idea and have it be a total flop because you're a bad writer, or the design was bad, or the marketing was bad, and vice versa. You can have a bad idea, but have great timing and great writing skills, and it can do very, very well. So the idea is just the spark. It's not what's going to sell the book.
Yes.
Okay, so Sean, I hope that answers your question for you. Marianne, I have a few questions here from you. You ask about an example of a good press release. And so I don't have a great press release in front of me to read right now. What I would say is Google is an incredibly powerful tool, and you're going to be able to tell the good from the bad. So I would Google it and have a look around. Having said that, once you move through the production process, we're happy to help you with the press release and give you some great examples. Um, but I do like your next question, Marianne, because I've wondered this myself. Charlie, Marianne is asking for a ballpark around what does it cost to hire a publicist? Should we be budgeting?
Well, it can vary. We always have a consultation with an author, see exactly what they want to do. We have various programs. Um, we have a very threshold program called Launch Your Book program, and it usually runs about 30 days. It involves the creation of a professionally done press release, usually 2 pages in length, like I described earlier, a radio interview, a key radio interview, a key book review, and some social media. And that package comes in at around $1,500, one flat fee. And then we go on from there. Most of our clients that will come to us will want to sign up for the 90-day program that includes the virtual book tour, expanded book signing services, book reviews, radio interviews, some television if we can get them locally, or even better, a national break. And that can range anywhere from $2,500 US to $3,000 per month. So it kind of varies. It really is a great deal of labor involved, and we try to always include the costs, such as book mailers, which usually run $2 to $3 a piece for any book mailers. But I'm not a big believer in sending out 50 books from an author. I really strategically and very selectively place books with reviewers. I know pretty much what reviewers will review what books, more likely than that others that will not. So that kind of gives you an overall picture. But our prices can vary. It depends really what an author wants and how much time they want to spend, and their budget and their needs. So that kind of gives you an idea of the range of programs that we have and prices.
Good. Perfect. And so the next question ties in well with this question that we just answered. So somebody asks, is it possible to purchase additional hours with FriesenPress outside of the 2 hours included with their promotion specialist? And yes, absolutely. I would say, again, use that 2 hours wisely to target 1 or 2 areas, go off, execute on that plan. And when you're ready for more, we would love to work with you. And we do sell additional hours as needed. So Charlie, somebody asks, my book is a children's book with lots of illustrations. This is for me. Will these illustrations appear in my ebooks? That's Margaret asking that question. Margaret, definitely the technology associated with children's books has advanced, and many of the ebook channels are now supporting children's books with pictures. And we've just rolled out and adopted that technology. So if you publish with FriesenPress, yes, some of your ebook formats will have the illustrations appearing in the book. So thank you for that question. Charlie, they're asking, can you recommend a good review service for children's books? And should I wait until my illustrations and cover design are complete before it is reviewed?
Well, to send a book to a local newspaper, if you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or perhaps you're living in Lansing, Michigan, I'm a really big believer in getting some local press first before you try and step up to some major reviewers. Although I think Kirkus, as you mentioned, is very, very good. But if you're in a community, it's good to get to know the book reviewers at these 50 major markets in the U.S. There's the Miami Herald, there's the New York Post, of course, the Washington, D.C. Post, San Francisco Chronicle. I mean, I always have the belief that, go there first and, try and get some coverage locally before you take it out to some major publishers. The Publishers Weekly does it's a really great place to get your book reviewed for children's books, if you can do that. They do have a review service now. But there's really not one designated really good children's book review service. The American Library Journal certainly, I think, does a great job of mentioning good children's books, and they do reviews. So that would be what I would do. But I would try and really concentrate on the local level if you want to start out and get some reviews, like you mentioned, Kirkus and a few others, because it is extremely difficult to step in and get a review with a top-tier, children's book review service.
Great. Okay, good answer. Thanks, Charlie. So Marianne asks, I was told that it's difficult to get your book noticed on Amazon, and I can definitely validate that statement, Marianne. There's millions of books on Amazon. What advice, Charlie, do you give to generate that visibility on Amazon?
Sure. Well, I think Amazon is good, and I'm a believer in it, but often I think people really perceive reviews on Amazon as being left by friends. And I don't think that a lot of media take them, and the mainline media take them too seriously. That's been my experience. I think, They're very good. I think they're great to support to drive sales when someone lands on your Amazon page and they see these nice remarks and reviews from people, friends or whoever. It's impressive, and I think it could generate purchasing a book certainly. But I think to use that as a way to wedge to get the real media, the book media, the serious book media interested is not a way that's going to work. Like you were mentioning, Kirkus reviews is very, very good, assuming they give you a good review, because as you know, there's no guarantee. Forward is another one you mentioned that's also very, very good. We've had clients that have engaged us to start out getting paid reviews, which can open up other reviews and other major outlets. So it's I think Amazon's good, but I think you can't just depend on Amazon.
Right. Good. Okay. Charlie, Carla is asking, what are the requirements for a TV show to invite or receive someone to talk about their book in Hollywood?
Oh boy. I think usually if you're a bestseller author, that seriously, because if you've written a book and it's suddenly like exploded, and you're gonna get booked on a lot of television and radio shows, particularly if it's a nonfiction book. But this 50 Shades of Grey thing is, as you know, is taken off as well. So it's very, very difficult, extremely. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to say they could fly into Los Angeles and be on a television show. Although there is, and a good example, we had a George Washington's descendant, Austin Washington, who self-published a book called The Education of George Washington. But based on his name and being a descendant of George Washington, we got him booked on a very good show here in Los Angeles called Between the Lines. I don't know if you know it, Tammara, but it's distributed on a lot of PBS stations here in the USA. And I believe Canada also. It's hosted by Barry Kibrick, and it's produced here in Los Angeles. But to come into LA and to get on any of the major channels here, or ET or any of those shows, is almost impossible unless the book is a phenomenon of some kind, and you just hit the lucky stars with it, and everyone's talking about it. And more than likely would be a book, a tell-all book about something or someone, something like that.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Kirk, you ask, is there a product that you can buy to provide an opinion if your book is ready to be saleable? So, Kirk, I will say this, the best way to get started on this journey is to make sure you have an excellent book that reads really, really well. That's what makes a book saleable and marketable. With FriesenPress, when you sign up for a publishing package, the very first thing that we do is we send it to one of our editors, and we have an amazing stable of editors that have worked for John Wiley & Sons, editing the Dummies books, that have worked for big names like Aaron Spelling in Hollywood, really recognized editors who will read your book from front to back, and they'll provide a report that's about 5 pages long that will speak to the strengths of your book, that will speak to areas where you can make your book stronger, that will tell you what type of editing that you need to make sure you're going to market with the very strongest product that you can. So I would say that that's a great starting point to get that feedback that you need. And if you're not ready to move into that full publishing package, you can get that evaluation as a standalone investment to get that opinion. And if you feel confident moving forward after that, we will credit that to your publishing package, credit the value of the evaluation to your publishing package. So it's a great risk-free way to get started with us. So Kirk, thanks for that question. So Herbert asks, what is the minimum number of months you have to sign up with Barrett or FriesenPress? And Charlie, tying into that, people are asking about the relationship between you and me. So I'm going to say on behalf of FriesenPress, everyone, we are the self-publisher. This is where you come to have your book produced. And we do provide those starter services that get you started with doing the basic sales and marketing. Charlie is a wonderful partner of ours. We cross-refer back and forth. When he has somebody that wants to publish a book, he refers them to us. And when we have an author that needs a publicist, we refer them to him. So we definitely work in partnership with FriesenPress as far as number of months that you need to get, how early you need to get started with us. We say it takes, between 3 to 6 months to produce your book, and then you have those few months thereafter to work on your sales and marketing plan with your book promotion specialist. Charlie, what would you say is the best timing around working with a publicist? When should they reach out to you?
Yeah. Usually about a month before publication day, Tammara. That's usually, it's because you want to have all your tools in place so you can pull the trigger, as they say, on debut day. You don't want to start, once the book is released, you don't want to start putting together a PR plan. So about 30 days in advance, and we can get pretty much everything up and running with a good press release and things in place. So when the book debuts, we just pull the trigger and it goes. The press release goes out and things begin. So you don't want to let any 30-day downtime from the time the book comes out until you get your PR materials out there.
Good. Okay.
But we also have clients that will call us in advance, and they want an outline of what we can do for them. So we're engaged to actually start working 30 days before, but it's good to at least make contact 60 days in advance of publication, just to start things talking, because there's a lot of things that authors have a lot of questions, and we answer them, and we make sure that we give them an agreement they're agreed to and happy with, and that next stage once that's done, the negotiation stage, we will start working usually 30 days in advance of publication.
Great.
So 60 days is probably a good time to start looking for a book publicist, beyond what you folks do.
Perfect. Charlie, I think that you said it best as we start to wrap up. I'm noticing it's 12:05 and you said authors have a lot of questions, and they definitely do. I see, unfortunately, there are some unanswered questions here. Folks, we're going to wrap up. I know Charlie and I could sit and talk about book promotions and marketing your book for quite a long time.
We could. Yeah, the whole afternoon. Yeah.
It's beautiful to see an author's dream come true of producing their book and having it in print, but it's even more special when we can give them the tools to really succeed with that product. So I hope that everybody has found this information valuable today. I know, Charlie, how valuable your time is, and it's been very special that you've spent this last hour with us imparting some of your knowledge.
And I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
It's wonderful. For all of those that have outstanding questions, you'll see on the last slide, all of our contact information is here. Please don't hesitate to reach out to FriesenPress for your publishing needs and any sales and marketing advice. Of course, Charlie is available to take your call from a publicity perspective if you'd like to engage him for his services. And I thank everybody for attending today. I hope this was valuable information. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie.